Alright everyone, welcome back to another Game Vault video. We're going to talk a little bit more about Ubisoft today and what they're doing to get ahead of the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows. They're having a rough year. Well, let's cue up the music and we'll talk about it. Alright, so it looks like Ubisoft is running to the New York Times to, surprise, surprise, attack players in defense of Assassin's Creed Shadows. The French video game developer Ubisoft ran to the New York Times in order to attack its own players in an attempt to salvage its upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows game. We all know that when these gaming developers attack players, yeah, that's always a great thing to do. That always helps sales by quite a bit. And that helps the reputation of the game and guarantees success every time. When are these idiots going to learn? Anyway, in a play straight out of Prime Video's playbook for, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Ubisoft leveraged Zachary Small in the New York Times as well as so-called expert to attack players ahead of the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows. If you recall, back in February 2022, Rings of Power executives worked with Vanity Fair writers Anthony Breznican and Joanna Robinson to attack fans of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, knowing what they had created was an abomination. That's an abomination. That's a dwarf. Dwarves are all male. So, this is DEI at its absolute best and worst. Okay, if you understand what I'm saying here. Is taking something like Lord of the Rings and injecting race into it and gender into it where it doesn't belong. Absolutely silly, absolutely stupid, and it just takes away from everything. Nowhere in the history of history have you ever seen a black female dwarf. Why did they do that? I mean, it's ridiculous. Dwarves are a race, right? They look a certain way. Elves are a race. They look a certain way. You know, you've got high elves, low elves, whatever, yada, yada, yada. They have different things to them, different nuances to them within the various races. The wood elves, the high elves, the dark elves, if you want to call them that, the drow. And even the drow don't look like this. They're like purpley skin. They live underground, for God's sake. But anyway, you know, they're unique races. Why do we have to inject humanity into it for the sake of diversity? It's silly, and it just pulls you right out of whatever story is being told, whether it be a TV show, a movie, a video game, whatever. It's just absolutely silly. So anyway, first the duo wrote, when Amazon released photos of its multicultural cast, even without character names or plot details, the story endured a reflexive attack from trolls. The anonymous online kind. Then they cited that a woman named Maria Rios Maldonado, who they described as a Tolkien scholar. However, she is anything but. Rather, she was a PhD student at the University of Glasgow who is interested in ethics, feminist theory, and encountering the other in Tolkien's works. She also happened to be the Equity and Diversity Officer for the University of Glasgow's Center for Fantasy and the Fantastic. Oh, she sounds like a fun person at parties. What a bitch. Anyway, here we go, Black Elf. I mean, it's retarded, dudes. It is absolutely stupid. I don't know. I felt the same way when I first saw a Black Vulcan. You know, I'm like, why are we doing Black Vulcans? Vulcans are Vulcans, you know? Different races can be different things. That would be like a Black Chinaman or, or a white Sub-Saharan African. You know, it's just, these things don't exist, not naturally. They don't occur naturally, right? Absolutely wild. Anyway, she was used by Vanity Fair to attack Tolkien fans and imply they are racist for simply wanting a lore-accurate adaptation. Maldonado questioned, obviously there's going to be push and backlash, but the question is from whom? Who are these people that feel so threatened or disgusted by the idea that an elf is black or Latino or Asian? I don't even know who this lady is. She looked like the Aunt Jemima of Middle-earth. Ubisoft had done something similar with the New York Times and Small. Like Breznican and Robinson, Small wrote, some gamers erupted over his appearance, convinced that the franchise known for its immersive recreations of the past had gone woke, by including a black character in its depiction of 16th century Japan. He then claims that developers received personal attacks and death threats during an online harassment campaign. To no surprise, he shares no evidence of such attacks or threats. I love this because they always say that, right? But they don't have the receipts for it. Now, I'll never condone death threats. or threats of violence or anything like that for people that do this kind of stupid stuff. They're dumb. They're idiots. I don't agree with them, I don't agree with their ideology. I don't agree with their politics. I don't agree with their cultural viewpoints, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to threaten them. I'm going to kick your ass over this? No, man, it's stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous. So don't do that kind of stuff. But they never, ever have receipts for it when they say this kind of stuff. They're just like, it was an online harassment campaign that threatened me. No, we said what you made sucks, and we don't like it, and it's stupid, and it's pandering, and anything else. That's not attacking you. That's attacking what you made, and that's critiquing it. And that's perfectly legitimate and perfectly okay. You are allowed to critique things. You are allowed to give your 2 cents on something, especially if it's something you love. If it's a hobby you love, if it's you like Lord of the Rings and all that, and you want to comment on it, well, fine, man. Anyway, after attacking gamers, Small then weaves a false narrative that has already been refuted for months by citing historian Yu Hirayama, who is an admitted communist. Small cites Hirayama's claim that it was, without question, that Yasuke was a samurai. There are very few historical documents about him, but there's no doubt he was a samurai who served Nobunaga. And yeah, that was a load of crap that was debunked a while back from this one clown. However, it is highly disputed that he was a samurai, as historian Yuichi Goza, who is a faculty member of the International Research Center for Japanese Studios, focusing on Japanese medieval history, and the author of What is a Samurai, speculated that Yasuke was simply Oda Nobunaga's bodyguard, an entertainer rather than a samurai. He was asked by Japanese website, the Sankei Shimbun, what kind of person was Yasuke, and was he a samurai or not? And Goza responded, there are very few historical records about him, so it's difficult to say. The history has not been the subject to much research, because the history of personalities is not the mainstream of historical studies. In the 15-volume Nobunaga Koki in the collection of the Sankai Kakubunku, I know I'm butchering all this, which is one of the biographies of Nobunaga Koki, a chronicle of Nobunaga's life, there is a description of a Nobunaga giving Yasuke a sword in a house, indicating that he treated him as a samurai. However, this is something that only appears in this biography among the dozens of manuscripts of the Nobunaga Chronicle, and we cannot deny the possibility that it was added later when the manuscript was transcribed. There you go. But all of this really doesn't matter in the long and short of things. This is the distraction that goes on in this whole conversation, okay? So if you want to talk about this kind of stuff with people, don't talk about whether or not Yasuke was a samurai, which he wasn't. It's irrelevant. It's why. Why is he the center of attention in this game? Why is there an African warrior the lead in a game set in feudal Japan where you play as a samurai? Why? It makes no sense. It's absolute garbage, and nobody can give you a valid reason for it other than it's pandering. It is absolute pandering, and it's disgusting. So don't let people distract you. When you argue something, you stick to the point of it. And I don't care. I don't care if he was a samurai. I don't care if he, I don't care if he rose out of the ocean and made Japan by slicing off a hunk of China, with his katana. It doesn't matter. Why did we choose him to do this story? Anyway, Goza continued. Also, even if he was a samurai, he may have been a formality. For example, in the Edo period, feudal lords who were fond of sumo had their own personal wrestlers. Formerly, they were treated as vassals or samurai and allowed to wear a sword, but even if a war broke out, it was not expected that the feudal lords would allow their retainers to fight on the battlefield. Now, not only did Small cite the communist Hirayama, but like Vanity Fair with Maldonado, he cited Kazuma Hashimoto, who he describes as a Japanese consultant and translator in the video game industry. Hashimoto told Small it was people in the West who were upset with seeing Yasuke as a samurai. No, it was people in the West who were tired of seeing DEI in every video game that comes out, but don't try to tell me Japan was happy with this thing, because they weren't. And here we go. We go on. This is patently false. It makes absolutely no sense, given Small even admits that Ubisoft apologized to Japanese players. Small wrote, after the online blowback, the game's development team attempted to gloss over concerns about the game's authenticity, apologizing in a lengthy statement for promotional materials that it said had bothered some Japanese audiences. In fact, he even noted that a political party in Japan formally asked the government to comment on what it considered historical inaccuracies. And there were quite a few, from what I understand. Not only the whole Yasuke thing, but building designs weren't right for that period, or I think there was some stuff that was written in Chinese instead of Japanese and some of the signage and all that. I know there's a stolen flag from a modern group of guys that does recreations of old battles or something along those lines. Hip-hop style music playing when Yasuke fights. Hip-hop music. This is like... it's like a game that was created by a bunch of racist idiots that are trying so hard to prove that they're not racist. You know what I mean? That's what this feels like. We'll put the black feller up front and we're going to give him some hip-hop music. Those blacks like hip-hop, you know, they really do. Yes, they do. And, oh, look at those squiggly lines over there. That'll make a nice sign. And look at those, you know, god dang. What a bunch of idiots. Anyway, Japanese YouTuber Shohei Kondo also explained a number of reasons why Japanese gamers are opposing the game and have signed a petition calling for Ubisoft to cease development on it. I'm sorry, buddy. I understand your thoughts here, but they're not going to cease development on it. They're not even going to delay it at this point, I believe. It's coming out no matter what. And I kind of figured that from the beginning. They've got too much invested in this to let it sit. And they've lost so much this year that they got to get this out there, good or bad, and try to recover some money. But I hope it bombs. Anyway, he said, "We are protesting marketing DEI's historical distortion stemming from their disregard for Asians and their arrogance and discriminatory responses to protest from Japan." From there, he focuses his video on what he describes as the biggest attempt to distort history. Japan, that is the legendary samurai, they claim, Yasuke. God. So what do you make of this Ubisoft running to the New York Times trying to come out against the players and all that? It's so freaking typical, right? Here's what happens. And this happens all the time. A game, movie, TV show, whatever is announced, right? And you can see that it's got some real problems with it. A lot of woke garbage in it. Maybe it's a reimagining of a game or a movie. Let's say a movie in this case, and they just flip-flop the gender of the cast to be all women. You know, or it's a video game that they're redoing, but now, you know, the main character's black, you know, or gay or whatever. And you can just see this stuff right from the start. And, you know, we are so aware of it now because it's happened so much that you can't, it's the first thing I look for now. And that's unfortunate. Whenever I see a new trailer, be it for a video game, a TV show, a movie, whatever, I'm like, oh God, let's see how they're going to ruin this. What is going to screw this up? And that's terrible. That's not how I should go in and look at these things when they come out. I should be like, hey, this is good. Let's see what's up. But I've been burned too many times that I expect it now. And if I see anything that throws me off a little bit, that sets off my spider sense, I'm out. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go see that movie. Nope, nope, not buying that game. Nope. I'm saving a lot of money because of this stuff. But, you know, it's frustrating because I feel like, why? You know, all right, you know, if you want the modern audience, that's great. You know, and I know you're marketing to that modern audience, but they never show up. The movies fail, you know. The video games don't sell. We've seen so much of that recently. We've seen it with Concord. We've seen it with Dustborn, and even Ubisoft's latest Star Wars Outlaws isn't doing as well as they expected. You know, it's just constant failure after failure after failure, yet they keep doing it. I think Einstein was the one that said, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, because that's what they're doing. So, I don't know. Everybody's insane, I guess. Anyway, leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications. I will see you guys next time. Oh, we're going to talk about hobbits. Anyway, peace.